Shalom, Chavarim. Welcome to this week's Word Study, where we are continuing with our study in Bereshith, Genesis. Today we're going through chapters 19, 20, and 21, where we are going to look at Sodom and Gomorrah, that is, Sedom and Amorah, and the birth of Yitschaq, Isaac. Before we begin, however, let's pitch our tents with our beloved Elohim. Let's bow our hearts. Beloved Abba, Father, Yahuwah, we come before you, Father, to partake of your word. O Abba, to be washed by your word, and to grow in your word, Abba, as you conduct our growth. You, Yeshua, and your Ruach HaKodesh being the author and the finisher of our growth in your word. We are grateful, Abba, for the way that you reveal yourself to us, the way that you reveal your beloved Yachid, Yeshua, to us, the way that you reveal your indwelling Ruach HaKodesh to us. As we give this day, Father, and every day to you, Yeshua, and Ruach HaKodesh, praying in Yeshua's Kodesh name, Yahuwah, Yahuwah, our Elohim, Yahuwah Echad. Amen. It was evening when the two Malachim came to Sedom. Lot was sitting at Sodom's city gate, the primary place for conducting commerce and legal business. Most people say Lot. His name is pronounced Lot. Seeing them, Lot got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground, and he said, "See here, my Adonim. Please turn aside and come into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may get up early and go on your way." But they said, "No, we shall spend the night in the open plaza of the city." Now, my friends, that it's a horrible place. This is a place that is full of indescribable darkness and wickedness. Continuing, however, Lot strongly urged them, so they turned aside and entered his house. And he prepared a feast for them with wine and baked unleavened matzah bread, and they ate. But before they lay down to sleep, the men of the city, the men of Sedom, both young and old, surrounded the house, all the men from every quarter. Note, this emphasis in the text, all the men from the entire city, reveals the depth of their wickedness. Continuing, and they called out to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may know them intimately." But Lot went out of the doorway to the men and shut the door after him and said, "Please, my brothers, do not do this wicked thing. See here, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man intimately. Please, let me bring them out to you instead. And you can do as you please with them. Only do nothing to these men, because they have in fact come under the shelter of my roof for protection." Note, this is a simple yet a very strong custom, Chavarim. If you visit the home of anyone in the Middle East, you will not only be sure to be fed very well, but your safety will be absolutely assured by the head of that household. Now also, Lot offering his daughters, I don't know, he knew that these men were homosexuals and that was their interest. But I don't know, I guess he was just grasping for straws, offering his daughters. Continuing, but they said, "Get out of the way." And they said, "This man, Lot, came as an outsider to live here temporarily, and now he's acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than your visitors." So they rushed forward and pressed violently against Lot and came close to breaking down the door of his house. But the men, that is the two Malachim, reached out with their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door after him. And then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, from the young men to the old men, so that they exhausted themselves trying to find the doorway. And the men, that is the two Malachim, asked Lot, "Have you any others here in Sodom, a son-in-law, and your sons and your daughters? Whomever you have in the city, take them out of here, for we are destroying this place." Because the outcry for judgment against them has grown so great in the sight of Yahweh that Yahweh has sent us to destroy and ruin it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were betrothed to his daughters, and said, "Get up, get out of this place, for Yahweh is about to destroy this city." But his sons-in-law thought that he was joking with them. And when morning dawned, the Malachim urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Get up! Take your wife and your two daughters who are here and go, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." And while Lot hesitated and lingered, note, he had to be forced out. While Lot hesitated and lingered, the men, that is the two Malachim, took hold of his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his two daughters, because Yahweh was merciful to him for Avraham's sake. And they brought him out and left him outside the city with his family. And when they had brought them outside, one of the Malachim said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you or stop anywhere in the entire valley. Escape to the mountains of Moab, or you will be consumed and swept away." But Lot said to them, "Oh no, not that place, my Adonim. Please listen, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your loving kindness to me by saving my life, but I cannot escape to the mountains." Note, Lot still could not bear to not be in a city. I cannot escape to the mountains. Continuing, I cannot escape to the mountains because the disaster will overtake me and I will die. Now look, this town in the distance is near enough for us to flee to, and it's small with only a few people. Please, let me escape there. Is it not small, so that my nefesh, my living experience, will be saved? And the Malach said to him, "Behold, I grant you this request also. I will not destroy this town of which you have spoken. But hurry and take refuge there, for I cannot do anything to punish Sodom until you arrive there. Note, here we have another example of the netchatef chavarim. The wrath of Elohim is never visited upon his chosen ones. And Lot was indeed a righteous man, but only because he was justified by Yeshua. Look at 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 7 through 9. And also look at Romans chapter 8, verse 30. Again, hurry and take refuge there, for I cannot do anything to punish Sodom until you arrive there. For this reason, the town was named Tsoar, meaning insignificant. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Tsoar. And then Yahweh, note, the Aramaic Targum reads, then the Memra of Yahweh, that is the word of Yahweh, Yeshua. And also the second half of this verse says, from Yahweh, out of the Shamayim. So we see two references here of Yahweh. One, the Father, and two, his Yachid, whom he gave his name to. Continuing. Then Yahweh, or the Memra of Yahweh, rained down Gophrith. That's brimstone, flaming sulfur, also known as Yahweh's breath. And Aish, that is supernatural fire, on Sedom and on Amorah. From Yahweh, out of the Shamayim, and he demolished those cities and the entire valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and whatever grew on the ground. But Lot's wife, from behind him, foolishly and with longing in her heart, looked back towards Sodom in an act of disobedience, and she became a pillar of salt. Note, Lot's wife not only looked back to where her interests were, but perhaps lingered behind and was overtaken by the supernatural fire and brimstone. And her dead body likely became continually encrusted with salt, since this disaster occurred in the salt-rich area around the Dead Sea. Continuing. Now, Avraham started out early the next morning to the place where he, just the day before, stood before Yahweh. And he looked down toward Sedom and Amorah, and toward all the land of the valley of the Dead Sea. And he saw, and behold, the smoke of the land went up like the smoke of a kiln, that is, a pottery furnace. Note, not only were Sedom and Amorah blazing ruins, but also Admah and Seboim. Deuteronomy 29:23, Hosea 11, verse 8, as well as all the towns in the valley of Siddim. And Tsoar was the one and only exception. Continuing. Now when Elohim ravaged and destroyed the cities of the plains of Siddim, he remembered Avraham, and for that reason he sent Avraham's nephew Lot out of the midst of the destruction when he destroyed the cities in which Lot had lived. And Lot went up from Tsoar and lived in the mountain together with his two daughters, for he was afraid to stay any longer in Tsoar. and he lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. The firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is aging, and there's not a man on earth available to be intimate with us in the customary way so that we may have children. Come, let us make our father drunk with wine, and we will lie with him so that we may preserve our family through our father." So they gave their father wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he did not know when she lay down or when she got up, because he was completely intoxicated. Then the next day the firstborn said to the younger, "Behold, I lay with my father last night. Let's make him drunk with wine tonight also, and then you go in and lie with him, so that we may preserve our family through our father." So they gave their father wine that night also, and the younger got up and lay with him. And again, he did not know when she lay down or when she got up. And thus both the daughters of Lot conceived by their father. The firstborn gave birth to a son and named him Moab, meaning from father. And he is the father of the Moabites to this day. The younger also gave birth to a son and named him Ben-Ami, meaning son of my people. And he is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Now Abraham journeyed on from there toward the south country of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. And then he lived temporarily in Gerar. Abraham said once again of Sarah, his wife, "She's my sister." So Avimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah into his harem. Here's Hashatan trying to break the messianic bloodline again, Chavarim, using that same old lie, "She's my sister." Continuing. But Elohim came to Avimelech in a dream during the night and said, "Behold, you are a dead man because of this woman whom you have taken as your wife, for she is another man's wife." Now Avimelech had not yet come near her, so he said, "Adonai, will you kill a people who are righteous and innocent and blameless regarding Sarah? Did Abraham not tell me she's my sister? And she herself said, he's my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands I have done this." Then Elohim said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this in the integrity of your heart, for it was I who kept you back and spared you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not give you an opportunity to touch her." Note, Elohim is faithful and true, Chavarim. Continuing. So now, return the man's wife, for he is a Navi, a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her to him, know that you shall die, you and all who are yours. So Avimelech got up early in the morning and called all his servants and told them all these things, and the men were terrified. Then Avimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? And how have I offended you that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me what ought not to be done to anyone." And Avimelech said to Abraham, What have you encountered or seen in us or our customs that you've done this terribly unjust thing? And Avraham said, because I thought, surely there's no fear or reverence of Elohim in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my half-sister. She's the daughter of my father Terach, but not of my mother, and she became my wife. When Elohim caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, this kindness and loyalty you can show me at every place we stop. Say of me, he's my brother. Then Avimelech took sheep and oxen and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham and returned Sarah his wife to him as Elohim commanded. And Avimelech said, behold, my land is before you. Settle wherever you please. Then to Sarah he said, look, I've given this brother of yours 1,000 pieces of silver. That's probably around 3 years' wages. It is to compensate you for all that has happened and to vindicate your honor before all who are with you. Before all men, you are cleared and compensated. So Avraham prayed to Elohim, and Elohim healed Avimelech and his wife and his maids, and they again gave birth to children, because Yahweh had securely closed the wombs of all the women in Avimelech's household because of Sarah, Avraham's wife. Yahweh graciously remembered and visited Sarah as he had said, and Yahweh did for her as he had promised. So Sarah conceived and gave birth to a son for Avraham in his old age, at the appointed time of which Elohim had spoken to him. And Avraham named his son Yitschaq, that is Isaac, the son to whom Sarah gave birth. So Avraham circumcised his son Yitschaq when he was 8 days old, just as Elohim had commanded him. And Avraham was 100 years old when his son Yitschaq was born. Then Sarah said, Elohim has made me laugh. All who hear about our good news will laugh with me. And she said, who would have said to Avraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have given birth to a son by him in his old age. And the child, Yitzchak, grew and was weaned, and Avraham held a great feast on the day that Yitzchak was weaned. Note, Yitzchak was probably weaned at about 3 years of age. We can see in 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 22 through 28, that Samuel served in the sanctuary from the time that he was weaned, and a Hebrew mother is quoted in 2 Maccabees, chapter 7, verse 27, as saying to her son that she nursed him for 3 years. Continuing, now as time went on, Sarah saw Yishmael, the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Avraham, mocking Yitzchak. Note, Yishmael's behavior was inappropriate and extremely cruel. He was around 14 years older than Yitzchak, old enough to know that he was being very wicked. A 20-year-old cruelly mocking a 6-year-old boy? That's wicked. Continuing. Therefore she said to Avraham, drive out this maid and her son, for the son of this maid shall not be an heir with my son Yitzchak. The situation distressed Avraham greatly because of his son Yishmael. And Elohim said to Avraham, do not let it distress you because of Yishmael and your maid. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her and do what she asks. For your descendants will be named through Yitzchak. And I will also make a nation of Ishmael, the son of the maid, because he is your descendant. So Abraham got up early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder, and gave her the boy and sent her away. And she left, but lost her way, and wandered aimlessly in the wilderness of Bereshith. And when the water in the skin was all gone, Hagar abandoned the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him about a bow shot away, for she said, "Do not let me see the boy die." And as she sat down opposite him, she raised her voice and wept. And Elohim heard the voice of the boy, and a malach of Elohim called to Hagar from the Shamaim and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for Elohim has heard the voice of the boy from where he is resting. Get up, help the boy, and hold him by the hand, for I will make him a great nation." Then Elohim opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the empty skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And Elohim was with Yishmael, and he grew and developed, and he dwelt in the wilderness and became an expert archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Mitzrayim. Now at that time Avimelech and Pikol, the commander of his army, said to Avraham, "Elohim is with you in everything you do. So now swear to me here by Elohim that you will not deal unfairly with me by breaking any agreements we have, or with my son, or with my descendants. But as I have treated you with kindness, you shall do the same to me and to the land in which you have temporarily dwelt." And Avraham said, "I will swear." Then Avraham complained to Avimelech about a well of water which the servants of Avimelech had violently seized from him. Avimelech said, "I do not know who did this thing. Indeed, you did not tell me, and I did not hear of it until today." So Avraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Avimelech, and the two men made a binding agreement. Then Avraham set apart 7 ewe lambs of the flock. And Avimelech said to Avraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs which you have set apart?" Avraham said, "You are to accept these 7 ewe lambs from me as a witness for me that I dug this well." Therefore, that place was called Bereshith, meaning well of the 7-fold oath, because there the two of them swore an oath. So they made a covenant at Bereshith. And then Avimelech and Pikol, the commander of his army, got up and returned to the land of the Pelishtites, the Philistines. And Avraham planted a tamarisk tree at Bereshith, and there he called on the name of Yahweh in prayer, El Olam, meaning the eternal El. And Avraham lived as a resident alien in the land of the Pelishtites for many days. And that, my friends, concludes today's study. Let's bow our hearts. Dear beloved Abba Father, oh Abba, we praise you and we thank you for the beauty of your word and what it does to us, Father, and washing us clean, changing our hearts, changing our minds, opening our eyes to everything that we see in new ways. Abba, we praise you and we thank you for calling us, Father, and for choosing us and for causing us to do your will as we give this day and every day to you, to your beloved Yahid Yeshua, and to your indwelling Ruach HaKodesh. As we pray in Yeshua's Kodesh name, Yahuwah, Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh Echad. Amen. Well, Chavarim, Abba willing, I'll see you here again next week as we continue with these wonderful stories. Until then, as always, I hope and I pray that these studies are and will continue to be a constant berachah to you and yours. Until then, shalom, Chavarim.
Now 2,000 years have gone by, it's another working day. Some would rather let it lie, but the question still